My name is Cassidy Moore, and 3 years ago I discovered that betrayal doesn't just hurt, it leaves a taste. To me, it tasted like lavender and scorched hopes. That scent still clings to my memories, my mother's fragrant garden mixing with the bitter trace of something precious turning to ash. It happened the night before my engagement celebration, a time when I should have felt on top of the world. Instead, I became the tragic heroine in a real-life drama, complete with a cheating fiancé and a sister who turned into a stranger. The memory slices through me even now, walking into my parents' den to see Trevor and Clara wrapped around each other. Her carefully polished nails knotted in his hair, his hands roaming the shape of her waist as if trying to memorize a map he was never meant to touch. They were so locked into one another that they didn't hear me come in. I stood frozen in the doorway, watching the life I built crumble silently around me. What followed wasn't yelling or confrontation, it was the kind of quiet that echoes louder than screams. Clara stared at me without flinching, defiance burning in her eyes. Trevor couldn't even look at me. No words, no justification. That same night, I packed everything and walked away. Vanished from their lives like breath on a mirror, leaving behind only a vague note and a heart full of pain so sharp it could cut glass. But the truth is, when you hit rock bottom, you find a strange kind of clarity. It's a cruel but perfect foundation to build something better. 3 years earlier, how it began. In hindsight, the warning signs were right there, like a breadcrumb trail leading me straight into heartache. But love can blind you to things that should have been glaringly obvious. Clara had always been the family's favorite. She could walk into any room and instantly command attention. Her laughter was contagious, her charm effortless. She was wild, magnetic, unpredictable. I, on the other hand, played it safe, the responsible older sister. I didn't shake things up. I followed rules. Trevor seemed made for someone like me. He was calm, steady, predictable. Our relationship was built on quiet routines, movie nights, and easy conversations that never rocked the boat. He felt like home, or at least I thought he did. When I flew into Eugene for our pre-engagement gathering, Clara was already there. She had arrived a week early, apparently to help with the event. She threw herself into the preparations with an almost obsessive energy, stocking Trevor's favorite whiskey, working closely with florists, even picking the music playlist for the celebration. "She's just thrilled for you," my mother said when I raised an eyebrow at Clara's sudden enthusiasm. But moms often cling to the picture-perfect version of their families. Seeing the truth would shatter everything they built. The signs were subtle but unsettling. Clara's hand resting on Trevor's arm a little too long. Their private jokes that left me out. The way something flickered between them when they thought no one was paying attention. My gut knew something was wrong. But my heart, it still clung to the fairy tale. The night everything unraveled. Our backyard looked like it was pulled from a dream that night. Strings of lights glowed softly between the apple trees. Smooth jazz floated in the background. Guests laughed and sipped wine, their glasses sparkling under the golden hour sun. I wore a soft green dress. Trevor once told me it brought out my eyes. For a brief moment, I let myself believe the fantasy. That I was really that lucky woman about to marry the man of her dreams. As the temperature dipped, I slipped into the house to grab my shawl. Everything was still inside, the hallway dim and hushed, like the house itself was holding its breath. That's when I heard it, low voices, too intimate to ignore. Clara's breathy laugh, the kind I'd heard countless times, but never like that. Not drenched in flirtation. I followed the sound to the den. And there they were. Clara and Trevor drawn toward each other like two planets locked in an inescapable orbit, her fingers threaded through his hair, his arms wrapped tightly around her. They leaned into each other with the hunger of people who had been pretending far too long. Time didn't slow, it shattered. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. I was invisible, a silent witness at my own engagement celebration. Trevor eventually looked up. His expression twisted instantly, shame, panic, guilt. Clara just stared, cold, calculated, like she was already considering how to spin the story. I stepped back, quietly. My feet barely made a sound on the hardwood. Outside, the party went on, laughter and music filling the air while my reality silently crumbled. Vanishing act. Before the sun rose, I left, took my bags and slipped away like someone reclaiming what little pride she had left. I didn't scream. I didn't make a scene. The only thing I left behind was a note. Just 3 words. I need time. No explanation. No blame. Just enough to leave them guessing, and just enough to let me start over. Back in Seattle, my apartment felt more like a tomb than a home. I began purging every reminder of Trevor, every photograph, every gift, every shared memory. I packed it all into boxes and shoved them deep into the closet, where light couldn't reach and I wouldn't be tempted to revisit. I blocked his number, silenced social media feeds, and erected emotional barriers so thick, even my own family couldn't break through. Work became my safe haven. I threw myself into architectural design with a feverish focus, working long hours and redrawing plans late into the night, as if by reshaping buildings, I could somehow reconstruct my shattered life. Exhaustion numbed me. If I stayed tired enough, maybe I wouldn't have to feel the gaping emptiness left behind. The months passed in a haze of coffee-stained blueprints and sleepless nights. I drifted through my days like a shadow, alive but barely. Then everything shifted. 6 months after everything had imploded, I pushed myself to attend a downtown gallery event. It wasn't just about art, it was rebellion. A quiet statement that Clara and Trevor hadn't destroyed me completely. That I could still show up, still breathe, still live. And that's when I saw him, Damon Carter. He stood across the room like something out of a forgotten myth, refined and graceful, with a kind of self-assurance that didn't scream for attention. I recognized him vaguely from the engagement party, a friend of Trevor's from grad school, if I remembered correctly. Clara had once mentioned him in that tone she reserved for men she couldn't charm into submission. "Cassidy Moore," he said, appearing beside me as if called by fate. "I thought that was you." We talked. Not about the past, not about betrayals or heartbreak, but about art, about the city, about small things that reminded me of who I was outside of everything I'd lost. He asked about my projects, my go-to-coffee spots, if I still sketched designs by hand. His questions weren't about who I'd been with, they were about me. That night, something shifted. Not a fairy tale or whirlwind romance, but something better, a gentle turning point. A slow return to hope. Damon didn't come rushing in to rescue me. He stood beside me while I learned to stand again. What we shared developed gradually, like a seed given just the right care. With each season, it deepened, patient, steady, unforced. He had a rare kind of presence, the kind that listens to understand, not just to reply. And when I finally told him everything, about Clara, about Trevor, about the night that broke me, he didn't try to fix it. He simply held space for me to feel, to release, and to heal. We fell in love not in grand gestures, but in quiet, meaningful moments. Rainy Sunday mornings with soft jazz and strong coffee. Midnight talks about dreams and old wounds. Comfortable silences that said more than words ever could. He saw every scar, every fragile part of me, and loved me not in spite of them, but because they were part of who I was. When we decided to marry, there was no big production. Just a quiet certainty between 2 people who had nothing to prove. A simple courthouse ceremony, witnessed by 2 elderly strangers who seemed as moved as we were. No dress, no aisle, no performance, just truth and commitment. For 2 blissful years, we created a world of our own. Our converted loft echoed with music, laughter, and peace. We hosted dinners for friends who didn't know the ghosts in my past. We went on road trips we never posted about, capturing memories only in our hearts. For the first time in a long while, I felt real, grounded, and whole. Then came the call. My grandfather, about to celebrate his 80th birthday, asked me to come for a small family dinner. I nearly said no, but his voice, gentle and weathered by time, reached something soft inside me. He'd been the only one who never stopped reaching out, even during the years I'd gone silent. "Just dinner," he said. "Just family." I looked at Damon. Without hesitation, he nodded. "We'll go," he said, simple and sure. The drive back to Eugene felt like stepping into a time capsule. Every familiar landmark whispered reminders of the girl I used to be. By the time we reached my parents' home, my hands trembled on my lap. But Damon's quiet strength beside me reminded me I wasn't that broken woman anymore. I had built a new life, a new sense of worth, a love that was earned and enduring. The house hadn't changed. It was still frozen in time, a museum of who I used to be. My mother greeted us with stiff politeness as I helped set the table, both of us carefully avoiding what hung unspoken between us. Then I heard it, the sharp rhythm of high heels and the dull stomp of dress shoes. Clara and Trevor had arrived, making their entrance with the same arrogance they always wore like a second skin. Clara saw me first and recovered instantly. She gave that wolf in silk smile I knew too well. Well, she cooed. Look who finally emerged from her little cave. Still playing the martyr, Cass. Her eyes darted to my left hand, searching for weakness. Still alone, I see. Some things never change. I met her gaze calmly, a small smile tugging at my lips. Actually, I'm married now, I said, my voice level. The silence that followed cracked through the room like thunder. Clara's expression faltered. Her carefully maintained composure wobbled, just for a second. I continued, placing silverware with precision. My husband should be here any moment. And right on cue, the front door opened. Footsteps echoed across the hardwood. And then Damon appeared, radiating quiet sophistication in a navy overcoat and tailored slacks. His eyes found mine immediately, warm and unwavering. He crossed the room with ease, pressed a kiss to my temple, and wrapped an arm around my waist. Sorry I'm late, he said gently. Traffic was brutal. I watched Clara's champagne glass slip from her hand, shattering on the floor. Trevor went pale, his face drained of all color. The illusions they'd lived off for 3 years crumbled like brittle paper. Damon was everything Clara had ever wanted but never earned. The man who hadn't fallen for her act. The man who saw through her charm and chose someone else with... She stormed out into the garden, Trevor following behind her like a defeated echo. Neither of them returned. Liberation. As we said our goodbyes, Grandfather gently squeezed my hand. You look happy, Cass, he said softly. I am, I whispered back, smiling. Truly. As Damon and I walked back to the car, hand in hand, I let the full weight of the night settle over me. Clara thought she'd broken me by taking Trevor. But in doing so, she unintentionally set me free to discover something far more meaningful. This wasn't revenge, it was transformation. I didn't come to make them feel small. I came to see, for myself, just how far I'd grown beyond the girl who once disappeared in the darkness. As the engine hummed to life and the headlights cut through the night, one thought rang clear and absolute. Clara and Trevor were nothing more than a memory. They no longer had power here. I was free. Completely. Joyfully. Finally free. And that freedom was the sweetest thing I'd ever tasted.